I still haven't even explored the whole thing. So I'm going to be doing that today, doing some mining while we read some Reddit stories. Thanks again for coming back to the channel. Let's go ahead and judge some people. Am I overreacting to my boyfriend hanging out with his ex without telling me? I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend. Let's call him Jake, 27M, for about a year. Honestly, things have been really good overall. He's funny, smart, independent, and we've even talked about maybe moving in together next year. No major issues at all, until this past weekend. So here's what happened. On Saturday, Jake told me he was going out with a few friends from college. Cool, no problem. I had plans to have a girls' night with my sister anyway, so I didn't think much of it. But the next day, I'm scrolling Instagram and I see a photo on one of his buddies' stories with the caption, "Great catching up with old friends." In the picture I spot Jake, and right next to him, clearly, is his ex-girlfriend. Let's call her Tasha. They dated for like 3 years and broke up maybe a year before he and I met. I knew of her, and he's always said they're on okay terms but not really close or anything. Naturally, when I see that, I'm like, hold up. He didn't mention that Tasha was part of this college friends hangout. Later that night, I casually ask him, "Hey, how was hanging out with your college friends? Did everyone have fun?" He goes, "Yeah, it was chill." I then say, "Was Tasha there?" He looks a little surprised that I knew and goes, "Oh, yeah, she was. But it wasn't a big deal. We were just in a group and I didn't think it mattered." I tried to stay cool. I didn't raise my voice or anything. I just told him I wish he'd mentioned that his ex was going to be there before going. Like I wouldn't have tried to stop him or anything, but a heads up would have been nice. You know? Well, he got kind of defensive and said I was making something out of nothing. He said it's not like he was hiding it on purpose and that they're just friends and I should trust him. I do trust him. I'm not accusing him of cheating or anything crazy, but I can't shake this feeling that he intentionally didn't mention her to avoid any questions from me. He claims he didn't think I'd care, but to me it feels like an important detail to leave out. It just feels off. Now I keep wondering if I'm being the crazy jealous girlfriend, or if any girlfriend would feel weird about this. So am I overreacting? I don't really think this poster is overreacting at all. It's definitely a little sneaky on Jake's part to conveniently forget to mention that his ex was going to be at this hangout. Like even if nothing happened, why not just be upfront? If you're going to hang out with an ex, even in a group setting, common courtesy is to let your partner know. It's not about needing permission, it's about transparency and respect. She even said she wouldn't have tried to stop him. She just wanted to be kept in the loop. And Jake getting defensive and immediately accusing her of making a big deal out of nothing. That's a bit of a red flag. Usually, when someone jumps to "you're making something out of nothing," it's because they know on some level they messed up, or at least that it looks bad. Now, hanging out with an ex by itself isn't automatically wrong, especially if it's truly platonic and in a group. But the fact that he kept it vague and didn't mention it beforehand makes it feel like an omission of truth. If there's truly nothing to hide, then why hide it, right? It just undermines trust. So no, I don't think she's overreacting. I'd be rubbed the wrong way too if my partner did that. It's not breakup worthy on its own, but it's definitely something that needs to be talked out so it doesn't fester. And speaking of talking it out, there are actually some updates from OP, so let's get into those to see how this all panned out. Update, later that same day. So I brought it up with Jake again, when we were both calmer. Nothing dramatic. I just said I'd been thinking about it, and that it was still bothering me. I told him it's not that he hung out with his ex per se. It's the fact that he didn't mention it, and I had to find out through social media. He gave a big sigh, and kind of rolled his eyes, which already told me where the conversation was headed. He was like, "I honestly didn't think it was a big deal, and I didn't want to make you uncomfortable over nothing." I responded that I'm not uncomfortable with them being in the same room. I mean, I get it. People stay friends with exes. Cool. It's the not telling me part that made it feel sketchy. He then half apologized, like, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're really blowing this up. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this." That line right there kind of stung, because to me it sounded like he expected I'd be upset, which means on some level he knew it would bother me and chose to hide it anyway. After that, he went quiet. The whole vibe between us changed. It was immediately awkward. We ended the night on a weird, tense note. He left my apartment pretty soon after, saying he was tired and we'd talk later. Not gonna lie, I felt pretty crummy. Nothing exploded into a huge fight or anything, but it also definitely didn't feel resolved either. It was that kind of conversation where you're like, we may have said we're fine, but we are definitely not fine. Update 2. About 10 days later. Hey everyone, it's been about a week and a half since that incident, and I wish I had a happier follow-up. Basically, things never fully went back to normal after that night. We saw each other a few times, and it was weird. We had a couple of short, awkward conversations where I tried to explain my side, and he mostly just brushed it off like I was overthinking everything. He kept saying, "It's not that deep, you're making a mountain out of a molehill," which honestly just made me feel more invalidated. The thing is, by this point it wasn't even about Tasha or the hangout anymore. It was about how he handled the whole thing. The way he avoided the topic and then dismissed my feelings afterward made me realize that we might have pretty different views on communication in a relationship. I started feeling like I couldn't fully trust him to be upfront with me, and once that feeling settled in, it was hard to shake. This past weekend, we finally had a more serious sit-down talk. I basically said that the issue wasn't the ex, it's that I felt he wasn't honest by omission, and then he made me feel crazy for being bothered. He did soften up a bit during that talk, but he also admitted something like, "Look, I didn't tell you she was coming because I knew you'd get upset and I just didn't want to deal with it." That kind of confirmed it for me. It was like, wow, you purposely hid it because you expected a reaction. So how am I supposed to believe there won't be other not a big deal things you hide to avoid conflict? In the end, we sort of mutually agreed to break up. I say mutually, but honestly, I think we both realized I was already halfway out the door emotionally. There wasn't a huge blowout or dramatic fight. It was almost quiet, if that makes sense. We were both pretty sad about it, but I think we also both knew it was the right call. We just seemed to have different expectations for openness. He actually said, "I guess we're just not on the same page," and I nodded. It was heartbreaking, because up until that point, we really were great together. But once the trust got shaken, I couldn't pretend everything was fine. So yeah, that's where we're at. We broke up. It sucks a lot, and it's not how I wanted things to go. But a part of me is relieved I trusted my gut on this, because that uneasy feeling never really went away these past 10 days. I'd rather deal with the heartbreak now than keep dragging something out that didn't feel right. Thanks to everyone who commented earlier. I read all the perspectives and it really helped me approach the situation more clearly. Much love to you guys. It's unfortunate that it came to a breakup, but honestly, I think OP made the right call here. If you can't trust your partner to be upfront about small stuff like this, it's a bad sign for the bigger stuff. And the fact that Jake straight up admitted he hid it because he didn't want to deal with it, or anticipated her reaction, that's pretty telling. He knew it would rub her the wrong way, did it anyway, and then tried to make her feel like the crazy one for caring. Not cool. Communication and trust are everything in a relationship, and if one person feels like they have to hide things to keep the peace, that's just a ticking time bomb. OP gave him chances to come clean and to acknowledge her feelings, and he chose to double down on the "you're overreacting" narrative. At that point, what else can you do? I feel bad for both of them. It sounds like aside from this issue, they did have a good thing going, and I get that objectively. Jake hanging with his ex in a group didn't have to be a big deal, but the way he handled it made it a big deal. Like I said, if there's nothing to hide, why hide it? In any case, I respect that OP trusted her gut. If something feels off and your partner isn't willing to see your perspective, sometimes walking away is the best, if hardest, option. Better to deal with that hurt now than let it erode your self-esteem over time. Okay, I think I've run out of things to say about this one. Let's move on to the next story. Am I the bad person for telling my nosy neighbor to mind his own business about my yard? So I 32F bought a house last year in a neighborhood that thankfully doesn't have a homeowners association. That was actually a selling point for me because I wanted the freedom to make my home look the way I want. I'm a big fan of fun, colourful yard decor. The neighbourhood already has a few quirky houses with bright paint and lawn ornaments, so I figured my style would fit right in. Fast forward to this summer. I finally got around to decorating my front yard and repainting the house trims. I painted my front door a bright teal and put up some funky decorative art on the exterior walls. Think murals of sunflowers. In the yard, I planted a wildflower garden instead of a plain lawn, added some cute gnome statues and a pink flamingo, even hung up string lights. It's like a little fairy garden vibe. I love it. It makes me smile every time I see it. Enter my next door neighbor, Paul, 60s M. Paul apparently hates everything I've done. Even when I was just starting the project, he would stand on the sidewalk, arms crossed, watching me with this disapproving look. At first he just made passive-aggressive comments like, "Oh, that's bright," Well, not exactly what we're used to around here. I just shrugged those off. But as things progressed, he escalated to outright complaining. He told me my wildflowers looked messy, and that the garden gnomes make the yard look tacky. He even said the teal door is an eyesore compared to the earthy tones of the other houses. Mind you, there are actually a few other colourful houses on the block, so it's not like mine is the only one. Each time, I basically told him, politely, that I don't care if he likes it or not, it's my house. I even, maybe a bit snarkily, suggested that if he wants uniform earth tones and perfectly manicured lawns, perhaps he should consider moving to one of those HOA neighbourhoods where they regulate that stuff. That really ticked him off. He grumbled something about having lived here for 30 years and not intending to move just because of new people like me. Anyway, last weekend I was putting in some stepping stones that my niece and I painted together. Little ladybugs and turtles, super cute. My 15-year-old niece was helping me in the yard, and she was excited to see our artsy stepping stones go in. Right on cue, Paul comes marching over to complain yet again, saying my yard is turning into a gaudy eyesore, and I'm lowering property values. Dramatic much? My niece was standing right there, so I tried to keep it civil, but I was so done at this point. I told him, and I quote, that it's my house and my yard, and it's time for him to grow up, get a life and get over it. I may have actually said get over it, because I was that angry. I also added that if he has so much free time to complain about a neighbour's flower garden, maybe he needs a hobby. Paul got super red in the face and said I have no respect, and that I was being ridiculously rude. He stormed off, calling me a nasty piece of work. Later, another neighbour, a friend of his, told me Paul's been ranting to anyone who will listen about how disrespectful I am, and that even if he's a crank, I should try to be the bigger person since he's been in the neighbourhood forever. She implied that I should just humour him or something. Now I'm second-guessing myself. I mean, I could have been more diplomatic, but honestly, who comes onto someone else's property just to gripe about garden gnomes and flowers? So was I the terrible human being for telling him to basically mind his own business and get over it? Okay, I'm pretty sure almost everyone will agree that OP is not the bad person here. When you own a property, especially in a place with no HOA, you have every right to decorate it however you darn well please, as long as you're not violating any actual laws or codes. Planting flowers and painting your door a fun colour is hardly a crime. If anything, it sounds delightful. I'd much rather see a colourful, personality-filled yard than a cookie-cutter boring one any day. Paul needs to chill. Like, imagine being so pressed about someone else's front yard that you spend your retirement whining to the neighbours about it. The fact that OP tried being polite at first and only snapped after repeated harassment shows a lot of restraint, honestly. He pushed and finally got the sass he was asking for. Telling him to get a hobby is 100% valid, because apparently his current hobby is being the neighbourhood complaint patrol. Also, the other neighbour saying OP should be the bigger person, because Paul's been there forever? Nah, longevity doesn't earn you a free pass to be rude. If anything, he should know better after 30 years of living around other humans. OP wasn't disrespectful until Paul really asked for it. In my opinion, some people won't learn unless you get a little blunt. Honestly, I find this whole thing kind of funny too. Like, the image of a 60-something dude throwing a fit over cute painted stepping stones and gnomes is almost cartoonish. Meanwhile, OP and her niece are just having wholesome gardening fun. If that's what he's choosing to get angry about, I can't imagine how he deals with any real problems. OP, enjoy your brightly coloured fairy garden yard. If Paul doesn't like it, he can literally just not look at it. Last I checked, that's free and requires zero effort. Maybe he'll eventually get tired of complaining when he sees it's not going to change a thing. Or maybe he'll actually take up a real hobby like, I don't know, gardening his own yard instead of critiquing yours. Side note, I low-key suspect I'm actually the bad neighbour on my block sometimes. The other month, I hosted a backyard karaoke night, and let's just say my singing voice could politely be described as enthusiastic. We were belting out throwback jams until like 11 p.m. One of my neighbours ended up calling the cops on us for a noise complaint. And honestly, fair enough. It was a Tuesday and we were way too loud. So yeah, sometimes your neighbours are annoying and sometimes you might be the annoying neighbour. In this situation though, Paul is definitely the one wearing that crown. For the record, if I were OP's neighbour, I'd be over there taking cute Instagram photos in her garden, not complaining about it. But hey, to each their own. Paul can go clutch his pearls somewhere else. Alright, with that out of the way, Let's move on to the next story. I think my boyfriend has been stalking me and trying to destroy my life. I'm honestly terrified. This is kind of insane, and I feel like I'm in a bad thriller movie right now, but I really need some advice. I'm a 25-year-old female, and until very recently I was in a relationship with my boyfriend Ryan. We were together for 3 years. I say until very recently because as of literally yesterday, I packed my stuff and left, and he's now my ex, but I'll get to that. Let me start from the beginning. Over the last year or so, I've had a string of really bizarre, awful things happen to me. At first I thought I just had a bout of terrible luck, but now I'm thinking it was him all along. A couple months ago, one of my close friends, my best friend since college, suddenly froze me out. She stopped returning my calls and texts completely. Finally, I got a hold of her and she was pissed. She said I had been spreading rumors about her and talking behind her back. I was floored, like where was this coming from? She claimed she had receipts, screenshots of messages from an account with my name that said some really nasty false things about her. The account was obviously fake, it didn't even sound like how I talk, and I tried to explain that to her, but it took a lot of convincing and tears before she eventually believed that it wasn't me. Again, at the time I vented to Ryan, and he was so supportive. He even said, "Some people just want to stir up drama, babe. I'm glad you worked it out with her." At this point I was weirded out, but still thought these incidents were unrelated flukes. Maybe I had an unknown enemy or something. It crossed my mind that someone might be targeting me, but I dismissed it as paranoid. Then things got even worse. I lost my job, a job I loved, because apparently I was caught stealing from the register, except I never did that. What happened was, one day out of the blue, my manager calls me in, looking grim, and shows me a printout of an email. The email claimed to be from a customer who said they saw me pocketing cash from the register and that they had video proof. I was stunned. This never happened. We reviewed the security footage from the date the email claimed, and of course there was no such incident. But weirdly, my manager still seemed suspicious of me, like maybe I had someone covering for me in the footage or something. It didn't make sense. A week later they let me go, citing loss of trust. It was devastating. Once more, I came home crying, and once more Ryan was there to hug me and curse out my idiot boss for not believing me. After that, I seriously started to think someone had it out for me. These were very specific, targeted strikes at different parts of my life. My friendships, my job. Who did I anger that would go to these lengths? I even joked to Ryan, maybe I've got a secret stalker or an arch nemesis or something. I laughed it off, but part of me was actually starting to believe it. Throughout all this, Ryan was like my rock. He was so supportive and sympathetic every time something went wrong. Too supportive maybe, like almost eager to comfort me, but I didn't see that at the time. Fast forward to this week. I found a new job a couple months ago at a small local business. I'm extra cautious now, half expecting something to go wrong. And wouldn't you know it, a few days ago my boss calls me into his office to show me a Google review that was left about me. It was scathing. The customer, probably a fake persona, described me with enough detail that it was clear they meant me, accusing me of being rude and inappropriate and implying I did something disgusting at work. I'm not even going to repeat it. It was that gross and obviously fake. The review was left under some random username, but it was the last straw. I broke down right there at work, telling my boss that I felt like someone was sabotaging me. Thankfully, my new boss is a decent guy and believed that the review was likely bogus. Especially given my good performance so far, he removed it and told me to take the rest of the day off to calm down. When I got home, I was shaking. I remember I had a full-on panic attack. Ryan was at work, so I was alone. I just kept thinking, who hates me this much? Why is this happening? In a moment of dread-fueled clarity, I started mentally going through every person in my life, and the only person who had been there for all of it, privy to every detail, was Ryan. This thought hit me like a truck, and I immediately pushed it away, like no way. There's no way the man I love is behind any of this. He would have to be a complete psychopath to watch me suffer like that, and even comfort me through it if he was the one causing it. The idea was absurd, but once that seed was planted, I couldn't ignore it. I started replaying so many moments in my head, little things, like how he was always extra interested in every detail whenever I told him about these incidents, or how none of these weird events ever touched his life, only mine. I decided I needed to either prove myself wrong, or find out the truth. And honestly, I was afraid of what I might find. Here's where it gets even crazier. A day after that Google review incident, Ryan was over at my place. He stepped out to go on a quick store run and left his laptop bag in my living room. I don't know what came over me, but I felt this overpowering urge to look at his laptop. I knew his password. He'd given it to me before to do stuff on his computer, so it wasn't like I was hacking. I opened it up, and holy crap, I found an email account logged in that I didn't recognize. It wasn't his usual Gmail. It was a burner-looking address. In the sent folder, I found emails that corresponded to almost every one of those bizarre incidents. The fake email to my theatre director, in his sent mail. The email to my old boss about stealing, also there. He had drafts of nasty rumors about my friend. There was even a list of all my close contacts, friends, family, co-workers with their phone numbers, emails, social media handles. It was like a creepy stalker spreadsheet of every part of my life with notes on how to mess with each one. I felt physically sick reading it. My hands were literally shaking. I took photos of the screen with my phone as fast as I could. By the time he got back from the store, I had thrown his laptop back in the bag and was trying to act normal, but I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. I told him I wasn't feeling well and that he should head home for the night. He looked concerned and even tried to feel my forehead. The audacity, right? I managed to play it off that I was just tired and needed to be alone. The second he left, I burst into tears. I called my older brother and told him everything. He absolutely flipped out and told me to get out of my apartment immediately. I went to my brother's house that night. Over the next day, with my brother's help, I packed up all my important belongings from my apartment. I felt like I was in danger, as if any minute Ryan might pop out from around a corner. I left a note at my place for Ryan, simply saying that I knew what he'd done and never to contact me again. I also changed all my passwords, froze my credit, the whole 9 yards. My brother helped me contact the police, and we're looking into a restraining order. I haven't confronted Ryan in person or over the phone because honestly I'm scared and I want to do it the legally safe way if possible. So yeah, as of right now he's my ex-boyfriend. I haven't talked to him directly and I hope I never have to. I'm safe at my brother's house for now, but I'm an absolute mess. I can't believe the person I loved and lived with for years was doing all of this behind my back, watching me unravel while he played the supportive partner. I feel like such an idiot for not seeing it sooner. I keep asking myself why. Why would he do this? Our relationship felt happy. We rarely even fought. Was he bored? Trying to isolate me so I'd be completely dependent on him? Is he just pure evil? I don't know. I don't know what to do next or how to recover from this. I'm terrified he's going to try something else when he realizes I know. Please, any advice or words of support would help. Oh my God, this is already a kind of story that makes your skin crawl. Like this is straight up psychopath behavior. The way he orchestrated problems in every aspect of her life and then swooped in as the comforter is beyond messed up. It's like gaslighting on steroids or some deep, twisted form of manipulation. He was essentially playing puppet master with her life and emotions. I know some people might be thinking, this sounds too crazy to be true. But honestly, stuff like this does happen. You occasionally hear about these cases where a partner secretly creates chaos, just to be the hero or to make the victim more dependent on them. It's a form of abuse and control, plain and simple, and it's terrifying because it's so hard to spot when it's happening to you. Who wants to believe their loved one is capable of something like this? Also, big kudos to OP for trusting that gut feeling, as horrifying as it was. The moment she started connecting the dots and then actually looked at his laptop. I mean, that takes courage. I'd be scared out of my mind to confirm a suspicion like that. But she did it and gathered evidence. Smart move snapping photos of the emails and list. That gives her something solid to show the police and to get that restraining order. Speaking of which, OP, you absolutely need to keep all that evidence secure, maybe backed up in multiple places. If this guy is as nuts as he seems, he might try to destroy evidence or twist the narrative. But it sounds like OP is taking the right steps. She's out of there, she's looped in family, shout out to her brother for stepping up, and she's contacting the police and a lawyer. I can't even imagine the betrayal and fear she's feeling. The person she cuddled with at night is the same person who was systematically ruining her life by day. That's nightmare fuel. And the worst part is, he acted all loving and supportive the whole time. It's like emotional Munchausen by proxy or something. Create the illness so you can care for the sick person. Absolutely deranged. Now, OP asked why he would do this. Honestly, there might not be a rational why that she'll ever get closure on, because rational people don't do this. It could be some twisted desire to make her completely reliant on him, as she guessed. Like if she lost her friends and job, she'd have no one but him. There are documented cases of abusers who isolate their partners exactly like this, though usually not in such an elaborate secret agent way. Or maybe he got some sick thrill from the drama and from rescuing her. Either way, OP. None of this is your fault. He hid his true nature extremely well. Predators like this are often charming and disarming, like how he played the perfect boyfriend. You are not stupid for missing it. He's evil for doing it. Focus on staying safe and getting help from authorities. And definitely lean on your support network, your brother, that best friend, etc. You're going to need a lot of emotional support to process this. Probably therapy too, because this is major betrayal trauma. I'm just so glad she discovered the truth before anything worse happened. Who knows how far he would have gone. This dude had a whole spreadsheet of plots. People like him don't just stop. Alright, I see that there is an update after this, likely after she took some action, so let's see how things unfolded. Update, a few days later. First off, yes, I have completely broken up with him and cut contact. I'm referring to him as my ex now, and I'm safe. I'm staying with my brother indefinitely, and I've talked to the police. Here's what's happened in the last couple of days. I could only keep my ex in the dark for so long. After I left that note and didn't come home, he blew up my phone with texts and calls, alternating between "I'm so sorry, please talk to me," and "it's not what you think," and then anger like "how could you do this to us? You're overreacting." I didn't respond to any of it. Honestly, seeing those messages made me feel physically ill. It's like he still thinks he can manipulate the situation. My brother and I went to the police with the evidence I found. We filed for a restraining order immediately. The police took it seriously, especially with the documentation I had, email screenshots of the fake accounts, etc. As of now, a temporary restraining order has been granted. He's not allowed to come near me or contact me. He's also been warned by an officer in person. Apparently they sent someone to talk to him, that any violation will result in immediate arrest. I'm also pursuing criminal charges for harassment and cyber stalking with the evidence. Through a mutual acquaintance, I learned that he's been telling people we broke up because I was cheating on him and that I'm making up crazy lies about him to ruin his life. Classic Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender behavior. I'm not engaging with any of that. Frankly, I think he's panicking now that he knows I'm onto him. Legally, things are in motion. Emotionally, I am wrecked, not gonna lie. I've started seeing a therapist. Had an emergency session because I was having nightmares and panic attacks. I just cannot wrap my head around how someone I loved so deeply could do this. But I also know I might never get a satisfying answer to that why. Some people are just that good at wearing masks. My therapist said something that resonated. The person I loved never really existed. It was a persona he crafted. The real him is the person who did those horrible things. That's a hard pill to swallow, but I think she's right. It's been a roller coaster, but I have an incredible support system. My brother's basically my bodyguard / best friend right now. My best friend, the one he tried to turn against me, absolutely went off when I told her the truth. She's been amazing, and is rallying our friend group around me. Even my new boss knows the broad strokes of what's up. I told him I had a disturbed ex who might try to mess with me or the business, and he was understanding. I know I have a long way to go to feel normal again. I'm still jumpy at every phone notification, and I have moments of intense rage followed by moments of deep sadness. But one feeling I don't have anymore is uncertainty. Now I know who and what he really is, and I can act accordingly to protect myself. In a way, that's empowering. I'll likely have to move to a new apartment, which sucks because I loved that place, but I can't imagine staying there. But that's okay. New chapter of my life and all, as long as he's out of it. So yeah, that's where things stand. I'm safe. He's out of my life for now at least. I'll feel fully secure once the legal stuff really sticks, and I'm focusing on healing. I want to thank everyone who gave me words of support. Reading your comments and similar experiences honestly made me feel less alone in this insane situation. Lastly, to anyone who might suspect they're in a situation even half as crazy as this, trust your gut and don't be afraid to reach out for help. I never imagined I'd be in a real-life horror story, but here I am, and getting out has been the best decision ever, even if it's hard. Final thoughts from me. I'm so relieved that OP is safe and taking all the right steps. She is incredibly brave and resourceful for how she handled this. Not everyone in an abusive situation, and yes, this is abuse, hardcore, is able to get out so swiftly and gather evidence like she did. I'm really cheering her on from afar. The ex-boyfriend's reaction, trying to flip the script and say she's making up lies, just confirms what a garbage human he is. Abusers often play the victim when they're exposed. It's good that OP is ignoring that noise and focusing on facts and law, because facts are 100% on her side here. The paper trail he left is damning. I hope he faces some real consequences for this. Cyberstalking and harassment are crimes, and he should be held accountable. But even if somehow the legal system doesn't nail him hard, you never know. The important thing is Old is out of his grasp and has a strong network around her. He failed at isolating her completely, and now his scheme is done. Recovery won't be overnight. She's dealing with a massive betrayal and trauma, but the fact that she's already in therapy and talking about it is a great sign. It will help her process everything and rebuild her sense of security. I also wouldn't blame her if she trusts people a little less easily after this. I mean, how do you not develop some trust issues? But I hope in time she realizes that there are good people out there, and what he did is a reflection of him, not of her worth or anything. Stories like this are a reminder that sometimes the call is coming from inside the house, as they say. It's chilling, but it happens. The silver lining is that she caught on and got out. Many people in long-term abusive scenarios don't figure it out or can't escape until much later, or at all. So I'm really proud of her, even though I don't know her. Phew, that was a heavy one. Take a breath, everybody. Let's switch gears and move on to something a bit less like a psychological thriller for the next story, because that was intense. Onward we go. Am I overreacting because my boyfriend skipped my college graduation to hang out with his friends? I 22F graduated from college last week, and what was supposed to be a happy milestone turned into a pretty awful day. My boyfriend 23M, of 3 years, basically ditched me on my graduation day. We had plans for over a month that he'd attend the ceremony with my family, and then we'd all go out to a nice dinner afterward. He knew how important this was to me. I'm the first person in my family to graduate college, and it was a big deal. He always said he was proud of me and was excited to celebrate. So the ceremony was this past Saturday afternoon. The night before Friday, he told me he might not make it to the actual ceremony because the guys were planning to watch some big sports game at our friend's house that afternoon. I was like, wait, what? You know that's exactly when my ceremony is. He shrugged and said, yeah, I know, but I really don't want to miss this game. We can meet up at dinner after, right? I thought he was joking at first. I kind of laughed and said, you're kidding. You know my graduation is more important than some game, right? And he got all annoyed and said, look, I already promised the guys I'd be there. I'll come to the next graduation. Like what? I'm not planning on graduating again, dude. He then said we could just celebrate the next day instead, and that I was making him feel guilty for nothing. Cue a pretty tense argument. I told him it was really hurtful that he was prioritizing a random hangout over something I've worked 4 years for. He kept insisting I'm overreacting, and actually said I should apologize for being ungrateful that he came to the dinner at least. He texted something like, I said sorry, I missed the ceremony. What more do you want? Stop guilt-tripping me. We celebrated, didn't we? You're making this a bigger thing than it is. That just broke something in me. I didn't even respond to that message because I was literally shaking with anger and sadness. It's been a few days now. He keeps texting but not with apologies, mostly just asking if I'm done being mad yet. I'm honestly considering ending the relationship over this. But part of me wonders, am I overreacting? Like I get that guys can get carried away with sports and stuff. Maybe I should have just let it go and enjoyed that he came to dinner. I don't know. My feelings are so hurt, and I feel like if he truly loved me, there's no way he'd skip something so important to me. So Reddit, am I being too emotional about this? Oh boy, where do we start? You are not overreacting. Not at all. Your boyfriend majorly screwed up here. I mean skipping your girlfriend's once-in-a-lifetime graduation ceremony to watch a game with the boys, and then gaslighting her that she's dramatic for being upset. Big yikes. This is a milestone event. It's not like he'd graduate every year, and he promised he'd be there. The fact that he so casually bailed, last minute for something as trivial as a sports game, which could have been DVR'd or checked on his phone, come on, shows a huge lack of respect. Then he's acting like you're the one causing a problem by being hurt. That's classic selfish behavior. Also the comment, "I'll come to the next graduation." What next graduation? Unless you're planning on grad school, this was it. And even if you were, that's years down the line, and missing this one would still be awful. It's such a dismissive thing to say. Frankly, he sounds immature and inconsiderate. He's not even properly apologizing. He's doubling down and calling you ungrateful. That's wow. If I were your friend, I'd be fuming on your behalf. Actually, I kinda am as a random internet storyteller here. You have every right to feel hurt. In a healthy relationship, partners show up for each other's important moments. Even if they don't personally find the event thrilling, they go because they care about you. And graduation is objectively a big deal. The bar is so low here, just show up, clap, maybe take some photos, give you a hug, and he couldn't clear it. Instead, he chose to chug beers and watch a game that, let's face it, he'll barely remember in a month, while your graduation day is now forever tainted by his absence. If I were you, I'd seriously reevaluate the relationship. This isn't about the Spawns game at all. It's about his priorities and how he treats you when it counts. Today it's a graduation, tomorrow it's your birthday. Down the line it could be even bigger life events. Do you want a partner you can't rely on to be there? He thinks it's not that deep, but it is that deep. It's about feeling valued. And he's basically telling you that you're not worth him missing out on a hangout. Ouch. Look, I obviously only hear your side. But based on this, your feelings are completely valid. If he doesn't sincerely apologize and show he understands why this was wrong, I wouldn't blame you for ending it. Actually, even with an apology, this would be hard to forget. You deserve someone who would be front row at that graduation cheering you on, and who would be excited to do it because it's important to you. The fact your family was there and he just no-showed must have been embarrassing too. I'm sure they noticed. So no, you're not too emotional. Your reaction is normal. His behavior is the problem. Now, let me check if there's an update here. And honestly, I'm kind of hoping you kick this guy to the curb, but let's see what happened. Update. Well, it's official. I broke up with him. The night after I posted, he sent me yet another text, basically saying, "Fine, if you're going to ignore me, maybe we should just take a break." It was so dismissive and almost like he was breaking up with me for being upset. That was the final straw. I replied that we should indeed take a permanent break, and that I'm done. He didn't take it seriously at first. He responded with, "Wow, so that's it? Over a stupid ceremony? Lol, you're a piece of work." That text actually made it easier to end it, because it showed zero remorse and just more disrespect. I told him not to contact me anymore and that this stupid ceremony meant a lot to me, and he clearly didn't get it. Since then, I've been a mixture of sad and relieved. I'm heartbroken that the guy I loved couldn't show up for me in a basic way, but I'm also relieved I stood up for myself. My family and friends have been super supportive. Even my dad, who generally liked my ex before this, said good riddance. He couldn't even bother to show up for you. That kind of says it all. To his credit, or I guess just as an update, he did eventually send a paragraph apology text a couple days later, but it was full of excuses like, "I didn't think it was a big deal, and I had money on that game." Seriously? I just told him to take care, and left it at that. So yeah, I'm single now, and while it hurts a bit, I know I did the right thing. I have no interest in being with someone who doesn't respect my accomplishments or my feelings. A lot of people responded to my original post, validating that I'm not crazy for expecting my partner to be there for me. And reading those helped me stick to my guns. Thanks to everyone who gave me perspective, onward and upward from here. Good for you, OP. Seriously, good for you. It sounds like once he continued to be a jerk in his messages, it clarified everything. That you're a piece of work comment. I practically saw the giant waving red flag through the screen. You don't need that negativity in your life. Breaking up is rarely easy, but you handled this with self-respect. You communicated your feelings. He doubled down on being a douche, and you rightly said enough. I'm proud of her. And it sounds like her family is too. His so-called apology that included "I had money on that game." Oh man. Like he thinks saying he was gambling on a sports game somehow makes it better that he ditched your graduation. No, buddy. That makes it worse. Just shows where his priorities were. And maybe that he has other issues like gambling, but that's another story. Anyway, OP, if you ever hear this, you absolutely did the right thing. You deserve a partner who supports your achievements and considers your feelings. This dude failed that basic test, and instead of recognizing it and learning, he insulted you. Bye, boy. Onward and upward indeed. There's going to be someone out there who hears I graduated college and goes, woohoo, let's celebrate the heck out of that, with genuine excitement. That's the bare minimum you deserve. Alright, let's keep it moving to the next story. We've got something a bit different to cleanse the palate after that relationship drama. I stepped on my friend's phone and broke it. I offered to pay for a replacement, but now he wants a brand new model, or he'll take me to small claims court. This happened a few weeks ago, and it's blowing up more than I expected. I'm a 20-year-old guy, and one of my friends, 21M, let's call him Dave, had a bunch of us over at his place to chill. During the hangout, I accidentally stepped on Dave's phone. He had left it on the floor near the couch, charging, I guess. We were playing a VR game, and I was dodging something blindly and crunch. I stepped right on his phone under a blanket. The screen got totally shattered, and the phone basically died. It was 100% my fault for not looking where I was stepping, though to be fair, who leaves their phone on the floor under a blanket? Still, I immediately apologized like crazy, and told him I'd make it right. Dave's phone was a 2-year-old iPhone, an XS Max. It wasn't brand new or anything, but definitely not cheap. I told him I'd pay to repair it, or if it's beyond repair, I'd cover the cost of a replacement of the same model. He initially seemed okay with that plan. We even looked up used iPhone XS Max prices online that night, and they were around $400, $500 depending on condition. His phone was the 64GB version, which secondhand is roughly $400 on the market. I told him I'd give him the cash, or whatever he preferred, so he could get a replacement phone ASAP. He said he'd let me know after taking it to the Apple store to see if it could be fixed. A week goes by and he contacts me, but not with the news I expected. He says he doesn't want an XS Max. He wants to upgrade to a brand new iPhone 12 Pro Max, which just came out a few months ago. That phone costs like $1,100 plus. I was stunned. I asked, are you expecting me to pay for that? And he basically said, yes, since you broke my phone, it's only fair you buy me the new one I was planning to upgrade to eventually. He claimed that since his phone is broken, he might as well get the newest model, and that I should cover it because if I hadn't broken his old phone, he'd still have it. I told him I was willing to pay what we discussed, the value of his old phone, or a same model replacement, but paying over double that for a brand new top-tier phone is not something I can afford. I'm a college student, nor do I think it's fair. He got pretty annoyed and said something along the lines of, I already talked to my dad, and he says if you break someone's property, you owe them an equivalent or better. And honestly, asking for the upgrade is not unreasonable. I responded that giving him the equivalent, the same phone he had, is what's reasonable. We went back and forth, and he basically gave me an ultimatum, pay for the iPhone 12 Pro Max, or he'll take me to small claims court for the full value of it. Now, I'm no legal expert, but this felt like huge overreach. I told him I'm not paying for an upgraded brand new phone, but I will happily either buy him an XS Max in great condition or give him the $500 it's worth. He refused that. Sure enough, a few days later I get a formal looking letter, not from a lawyer, just him, basically outlining that I owe a $1,100 for a replacement phone and that if I don't pay, he'll file a claim in small claims court. At this point I kind of stopped negotiating with him directly and decided to let him actually file if he wanted. But I did do my research and got some legal advice from a family friend. I found out that generally the law would only require me to pay the market value of the item that I broke, not the cost of a brand new upgraded item. So I felt pretty confident that if it went to court, a judge would not make me buy him a phone that is 2 generations newer than the one I broke. Well, 2 months later, he delayed a bit. We ended up in small claims court. Yes, he actually filed. He argued that he was entitled to the cost of a new phone because the one I broke was part of his upgrade plan, whatever that means, and that I had promised to make him whole. I told the judge I had offered to replace or pay for the phone I broke, which was an iPhone XS Max, and that I'd even sourced comparable devices for around $500. I also mentioned that the phone was left in a risky spot, on the floor under a blanket, which contributed to the accident. The judge basically laughed off my friend's argument. She said something to the effect of, "The defendant is responsible for the value of the item that was broken, not a future item the plaintiff desires." She asked Dave if he had a receipt or proof of the phone's value. He only had some printout of an iPhone 12 Pro Max cost, and a note of what his old phone originally cost 2 years ago, $999. The judge was like, "That's the new phone's price. What about the phone that was broken? What's its value today?" He tried to say, well, it was priceless to me. I almost snorted like, "S'mon, dude," and that he planned to upgrade so I should pay what he would have spent. The judge did not buy that logic at all. In the end, the judge ruled that I owed him 50% of the current used value of the phone. Why 50%? Because she actually decided we were both a bit at fault. Me for stepping on it, but him for leaving it hidden on the floor where it could easily be damaged. She noted that it was negligently placed in a high traffic area. She looked up a typical used price for an XS Max right then, around $500, and ordered me to pay half of that, about $250. I was honestly surprised by the 50-50 thing, but I wasn't about to complain. $250 is far less than the $1,100 he was demanding. So I wrote him a check for $250 right there in the courtroom hall after, and he had the sourest look on his face. He muttered that he'd never invite me over again, like I'm dying to break another of his devices or something. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm relieved it went the way it did. If he had just accepted my original offer, he would have gotten double that amount from me, and probably a replacement phone already. His greed left him with half. I'm mostly just glad it's over and I can move on, but seriously, this has put a strain on our friend group. Some of our friends think he was way out of line, but a couple actually sided with him saying, "You break it, you buy a new one." I wonder how they'd feel if the shoe was on the other foot. Either way, I'm done with the drama. I find this both frustrating and a little satisfying in the end. Frustrating because wow, some people really will try to squeeze you for everything, even way beyond what's fair. Satisfying because the judge basically gave him a reality check. OP was more than fair from the get-go. Offering to pay for the repair or the same model replacement is exactly the right thing to do. The friend demanding a brand new latest model is just greed, plain and simple. It's like if I totaled someone's 5-year-old Honda and they demanded I buy them a brand new Mercedes as replacement. That's not how it works, buddy. The fact that he actually took it to court, thinking a judge would side with, "But I wanted an upgrade," is kind of hilarious. I'm glad the judge saw through it and even dinged him for leaving the phone in a dumb place. Honestly, leaving your phone on the floor under a blanket during a VR party is asking for an accident. It doesn't excuse stepping on it, but it explains why both share blame. So Mr. Upgrade ended up with $250 instead of the $500 OP, was willing to pay, or the $1,100 phone he wanted. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, as the saying goes. If I were in that friend group, I'd be side-eyeing Dave hard for this. Taking a buddy to court over something like this, after he already tried to make it right, is such a crappy move. Sure, OP broke it, but OP acknowledged it and was prepared to fix it. That's what responsible people do. Dave turned it into a cash grab. Also, side note, his dad giving him that advice about equivalent or better maybe works if like a company is compensating you or something, but among friends? Even in law? Nah, you get equivalent, not a free upgrade. If I break your 2018 TV, I owe you a similar 2018 TV or the value of it, not the brand new 4K OLED 2021 model. That's just common sense. Apparently not so common to some. Anyway, good on OP for standing his ground once the friend got unreasonable. And kudos to the justice system for a common sense outcome. I bet Dave will think twice before dragging something petty to court next time. He basically paid court fees and got embarrassed, or to end up with less money than he could have had. Alright, with that legal drama wrapped up, let's move on to another story. My fiance's best friend just confessed she's in love with him right before our wedding. I, at 29F, am supposed to be getting married in 2 days to my wonderful fiance. We've been together 5 years, engaged for a year. He has a long-time best friend, Hannah. They've been friends since college. I've always been a little aware that Hannah was very close to my fiance, but I never suspected anything romantic. She's had boyfriends over the time I've known her, and my fiance always said she was like a sister to him. I got along with her fine, though we're not super close. She was invited to the wedding, of course, and everything seemed normal. Well, that changed yesterday morning. Out of the blue, my fiance sat me down looking all serious and showed me a long text Hannah sent him at like 6 a.m. In this message, Hannah essentially poured her heart out. She said she's been in love with him for years, that seeing him with me has been heartbreaking, and she always hoped fate would bring them together eventually. She literally begged him not to go through with the wedding, telling him that she believes they're soulmates and that he'll be making a huge mistake. She also said she couldn't go on without at least telling him how she feels, because it was her last chance. My stomach dropped reading this. I felt nauseous and shaky. First I asked my fiancé how he felt about it. He immediately said he does not feel the same way, that he was blindsided, and that I'm the only woman he loves. He even showed me that he hadn't responded yet because he wanted to talk to me first about how to handle it. I truly believe him. His shock seemed genuine, and I know he's not interested in her romantically. He's never given me reason to doubt that. My issue now is, what the hell do we do about Hannah and the wedding? She was supposed to be a bridesmaid. Yes, I had included her as one of my bridesmaids to be gracious, though we aren't super close. Obviously, I do not want her standing next to me at my wedding after this. Actually, right now, I don't even want her there at all. I haven't replied to Hannah. She didn't message me, only him. And my fiancé hasn't replied to her yet either. We're kind of in limbo. Part of me is furious at her for dropping this bomb at the worst possible time. It feels selfish and sabotaging. Another part of me is heartbroken because this was someone I thought was a friend, at least in a broader sense. And yes, a small part of me is insecure or anxious. Like, was she always waiting in the wings? Did everyone else know except me? It's a lot. The wedding is literally in 48 hours. We have guests coming from out of town. I don't want drama on my wedding day. I'm thinking of asking her not to attend, period. But I'm also worried about the fallout. She's part of our friend group. And if I ban her, what if she causes a scene or tells people why? On the other hand, if she comes, I fear I'll be anxiously watching her the whole time, or that she might do something reckless like object during the ceremony. My mind is running wild. My fiancé says he'll support whatever I decide. If I want her out, she's out. He's also disgusted by her timing and feels it was really disrespectful to me and to him. He keeps apologizing to me even though it's not his fault. Would I be the worst person ever if I told her not to come to our wedding after this? I feel like her presence would just make me incredibly uncomfortable. At the same time, I know she's emotionally hurting and maybe not thinking straight. Ugh, this is such a mess. And it's supposed to be the happiest week of my life. What do I do? Holy wow. What a timing for that friend to confess. 2 days before the wedding? That's like straight out of a rom-com. Except in rom-coms it somehow works out. In real life it's just a crappy move. Talk about putting your friend, the groom, and his poor fiancé in an impossible situation. First off, I have to give credit to OP's fiancé. He handled it the best way possible, immediately telling his bride-to-be, being transparent and prioritizing OP's feelings. That's exactly what you want to see from a partner when someone tries to throw a wrench in your relationship. The fact he hasn't responded to Hannah and instead brought it straight to OP is a green flag in a sea of red courtesy of Hannah. Now, as for Hannah, oof. I get that unrequited love is painful, and maybe it took her a lot of courage and desperation to confess. But doing it right before the wedding, when everything is set and emotions are high, is just really, really unfair to OP and to the groom. It's essentially placing a huge burden on them at the last minute, like here, deal with my feelings on top of everything else. Not cool. If she truly cared about her friend, the groom, she would not want to mess up his wedding or cause him guilt at such a crucial time. Confessing earlier, or heck, years earlier, would have been more respectful. Confessing never, and dealing with it privately or with a therapist, might have been even better. I absolutely think OP has every right to uninvite Hannah from the wedding. In fact, I think it's the only sane option. Imagine trying to say your vows while the person who begged your husband not to marry you is standing there watching. Yikes. That's not insecurity. That's just healthy boundaries and common sense. Hannah crossed a line, and there are consequences for that. She kind of took herself out of the trusted friend/bridesmaid role the moment she sent that text. If the friend group or others ask, OP and her fiancé can keep it simple. Something like Hannah is going through something personal and won't be at the wedding. They don't owe anyone an in-depth explanation on the day of. Afterward, if drama surfaces, they can calmly explain the truth if needed. Frankly, anyone with a brain will see that confessing love to the groom days before the wedding is a ticket to getting uninvited. I do feel a tiny bit for Hannah, in the sense that unrequited love can make people act irrationally. She probably had this fantasy build up and panicked as the wedding approached. But that doesn't excuse putting OP and the groom in this painful position. Actions meet consequences. It's sad all around, but Hannah kind of brought it on herself here. OP, your focus should be on you and your fiancé, and having a beautiful wedding. You have zero obligation to cater to Hannah's feelings right now. She made her choice when she hit send on that confession text. It's okay to prioritize your own peace of mind, and frankly the integrity of your wedding day. If I were you, I'd have your fiancé, since she's his friend primarily, send her a firm but polite response. Something like, I'm sorry you're feeling this way, but I do not reciprocate. I love OP and I'm marrying her. Given what you've said, it's best you don't attend the wedding. I hope you can understand that this is what we need to move forward. Short and not up for debate. She will likely be upset, but honestly, she had to expect some fallout. Best case scenario, she stays away and maybe down the line, you all can talk after emotions have cooled. If you even want to salvage any friendship, no obligation there either. Worst case, if she causes drama now, at least it'll be outside the wedding space, which you will have secured by disinviting her. I know it's hard, but try not to let this derail your joy. Her timing and tactics were selfish, yes, but your fiancé chose you. Focus on that. He's handling it right. And soon you'll be married, and hopefully able to put this behind you as a crazy footnote to an otherwise happy story. Now I'm eager to hear if there's an update on this situation, because I'm rooting for OP to have an awesome wedding without further interference. Let's see what they ended up doing. Update. Post-wedding. Hi everyone. I'm on the other side of the wedding, happily married, and finally with a moment to breathe. Here's how we handled the Hannah situation. We, mostly my fiancé, ended up telling her that given her feelings, it would be inappropriate for her to attend the wedding. He sent her a text basically saying exactly what was suggested, that he cares about her as a friend, but doesn't return her feelings, that he is committed to marrying me, and that it's best she not come to avoid everyone, including her being uncomfortable. She read the message. We could see it was delivered and then seen, but she didn't reply. She also didn't show up to the wedding, thank goodness. We had told one of our mutual friends who knew about the situation to kind of keep an eye out in case Hannah did try to make a surprise appearance, but thankfully there was no sign of her. The wedding itself was absolutely amazing. I was admittedly anxious up until the ceremony, but once I walked down that aisle and saw my now husband, all the stress kind of melted away. We had a blast. It truly was the happiest day of my life. If any guests noticed Hannah's absence, nobody made a big deal of it to us. A couple of people asked afterward and we just said she couldn't make it and left it at that. However, there was a bit of aftermath in the days following. Hannah finally sent an email to both of us a few days after the wedding. It was interesting. She apologized for the timing of her confession, saying she had been overwhelmed with emotion. She congratulated us on the marriage, but then she also kind of quasi-defended herself by saying she felt she owed it to herself to speak her truth, and hoped that someday we could all be friends again. To be honest, I'm not ready to think about friendship with her right now, and maybe never. I didn't respond, and neither has my husband. We're just enjoying our newlywed bubble for now. Our mutual friends are split. Some had no idea she felt that way and were shocked. A couple of them apparently knew she had a crush, but didn't think she'd ever act on it. No one has given us grief for asking her not to come. If anything, people seem to understand it was a tough situation and feel bad it happened. All in all, I'm just relieved it's resolved with minimal drama. I'm so grateful to my husband for how he handled everything. I love that man to death, and I'm grateful we still got to have our beautiful wedding without a cloud hanging over it. Thanks to everyone who gave me perspective and support. It helped reinforce that I wasn't being a bridezilla or whatever for not wanting her there. I'm looking forward to an amazing marriage, and if Hannah can work through her stuff, I do hope she finds happiness too. Far away from my marriage though. I am so happy to hear that everything went smoothly, and that OP had a fantastic wedding. That's the best outcome one could hope for given the circumstances. Huge props to both OP and her husband for navigating that with class and unity. They acted as a team, which is exactly what you want in a marriage. Hannah's follow-up email, well, at least she apologized for timing, anyway. The whole out it to herself to speak her truth thing still feels a bit self-centered, but hey, I hope she finds some peace and maybe learns a lesson about boundaries. I do think it's wise for OP to keep her distance for now, or forever. Some bridges, once burned, are not easily rebuilt, and it's perfectly valid to feel that way. The friend group seems understanding overall. Anyone who would blame OP or the groom for how they handled it probably needs a reality check. But it sounds like most are sympathetic, and I'm sure down the line this will become an anecdote of remember when so-and-so tried a last-minute Hail Mary love confession. Wild at the time, but eventually just a story. What warms my heart is how OP described her wedding day. Once she saw her husband, all the stress melted away. That's beautiful. It means she didn't let Hannah's actions rob her of the joy she deserved. And that's the real victory here. So all's well that ends well. OP and her husband can move forward, and hopefully Hannah can move on. If I were to give a tiny piece of advice to Hannah, not that she asked, maybe give them a lot of space and focus on healing and finding someone else. Maybe a therapist first, then a new romance eventually. It's going to be hard for her, but interfering any further would just permanently cement her as that friend who tried to wreck the wedding. Not a great legacy. Anyway, congrats to the happy couple. And with that roller coaster behind us, let's proceed to our final story of the day. Am I the terrible human being for letting my nephews eat a bunch of junk food when I was babysitting them? This past weekend, I, 34M, babysat my two nephews, ages 6 and 8, for my sister and brother-in-law, so they could attend a wedding out of town. I don't have kids of my own, but I love my nephews, and we hang out often. My sister dropped them off at my place Friday night, and picked them up Sunday morning. Over the course of the weekend, I basically let them have a fun uncle weekend. We watched movies, some animated stuff and Marvel movies they love, played video games, and I let them have the snacks and treats I had stocked up, things like popcorn, pizza, chicken nuggets, cookies, and yes, some soda. I gave them Sprite with pizza, not like energy drinks or anything. My philosophy was kinda, it's a weekend at Uncle's house, let's have some fun. The kids were thrilled and we had a great time. They were definitely hyped up at times. We had a mini dance party Saturday night after Coke floats, but nothing too crazy. They crashed by 10 p.m. both nights, no big incidents. Well, Sunday when my sister came to get them, the boys immediately blabbed, as excited kids do, about how they had pizza and nuggets and ice cream and soda, etc. My sister looked upset, and after the kids were in the car, she kinda laid into me. She said, "Why on earth would you feed them all that crap?" They were bouncing off the walls when we got home. She claims that now she has to detox them off sugar and junk because they're acting wild and asking for sweets constantly. She also scolded me for giving them soda at all, because apparently she rarely allows it. For the record, she never gave me any specific instructions about food beyond they've eaten dinner on Friday night. There wasn't a don't give them X rule list. I apologized for not thinking to check, but I also kind of pushed back and said, look, it was just one weekend and we had fun. It's not like I feed them this daily. And she retorted, yeah, but now I'm the one who has to deal with the aftermath of 2 sugar-high kids. She was pretty peeved. My brother-in-law later texted me and said something like, I know you meant well, but try not to undermine our food rules next time, okay? I honestly feel a bit torn. On one hand, they're her kids, and maybe I should have kept it healthier. On the other hand, they're back to their regular routine now, and one weekend of indulgence isn't going to permanently ruin their diet or something. And if it was so important, I feel like she should have given me guidelines up front. She's usually not shy about that kind of thing. I was just trying to be the fun uncle. So am I the awful here for giving my nephews junk food and soda during a weekend babysitting, when their parents didn't explicitly forbid it but are now upset? I'm going to side with Uncle Fun here and say he's NTA. Look, it's basically a trope that when the kids are with the fun uncle or grandparents, they get spoiled a little. And the key point, the parents didn't provide any instructions or restrictions beforehand. If the sister is very health conscious about the kids' diets, she absolutely should have mentioned, hey, please go easy on sugar/junk when dropping them off. Otherwise, it's kind of assumed that a weekend at Uncle's might involve, pizza and cookies. One weekend of snacks and soda is not going to cause long-term harm. The kids had a blast, and will probably have great memories of it. Yeah, they might be a bit wound up when they get home, but that's parenting. Kids get wound up after birthday parties or Halloween or a visit to Chuck E. Cheese too. You manage it, You don't scold the host of the birthday party for serving cake, right? It sounds like the parents are more annoyed about having to deal with the sugar crash aftermath. Understandable that it's not fun to have hyper kids, but it's temporary. They'll be fine. Maybe the 6 and 8-year-old will be like, Uncle gave us soda for a couple days. But parents can just calmly say that was a special treat, not an everyday thing. Kids can understand different rules in different places. To be fair to sis, maybe she was just tired from her trip and walked into 2 sugared up munchkins and reacted grumpily. Maybe after cooling off, she'll realize it's not a huge deal. If I were OP, maybe I'd send a quick text like, sorry again, didn't mean to overstimulate them, next time I'll stick to your guidelines, just let me know what they are. That shows willingness to respect their parenting style going forward, and also gently reminds her she forgot to give those guidelines. But do I think OP did something heinous? Nah. He entertained the kids, kept them safe, happy, and created a fun memory. Many kids would kill for an uncle like that. A lot of parents would be grateful for a sibling who takes the kids for a whole weekend and keeps them smiling the whole time. Balance, right? Maybe cut back on the soda next time, if it really bothers them. But a couple days of junk food won't destroy anyone's health. From the kids' perspective, I promise they think Uncle is a hero. And as a parent, I'd rather my kids feel loved and have an awesome time with family, even if it means a sugar rush, than sit around bored eating carrot sticks, resenting that Uncle's house is no fun. Balance, right? Anyway, unless the parents had specific health or allergy concerns they failed to mention, doesn't sound like it. OP did fine. Sister will get over it. The kids will return to normal routine in a day or 2. No lasting damage done. She might just be crabby from travel and picking up overtired kiddos. In short, Uncle, you're not an bad person. You're a champ for babysitting all weekend and making your nephews so happy. Next time maybe ask about any food rules, just to cover your bases and keep parental units happy. But honestly, I think this was a minor blip. Alright, these next stories are subscriber submissions sent in by viewers to my email inbox, which you can find in the description of this video. If you want me to read a story or question that you have, feel free to send it there. And please, if you comment on any of these personal stories, be respectful. These are real people sharing real problems. Subscriber story. Am I just lazy? Or is something actually wrong with me? Hi, I'm a 17-year-old girl and I've been really struggling this past year. I apologize if this is long or rambly. I'm just going to spill it all. For most of my life I've been a pretty good student, mostly A's and B's, and I was known as the smart kid in earlier grades. But over the last year or 2, basically since high school got more intense, I've been finding it incredibly hard to focus, get work done and keep my grades up. My mind wanders in class constantly. When I sit down to do homework, I'll realize an hour has passed, and I've written like one sentence because I got distracted or just stared off into space. It's like my brain is constantly buzzing and jumping between thoughts and I can't control it. I end up procrastinating everything, not because I don't want to do it, but because it's like my brain refuses to concentrate until the panic of a deadline kicks in. I've pulled so many all-nighters trying to catch up. My grades have slipped to C's and a couple D's, which has never happened before. I feel exhausted and stupid, and honestly I call myself lazy a lot. I tried to talk to my parents about maybe getting evaluated for something like ADHD, or at least getting some help. Both my mum and dad dismissed it. They told me I'm just being dramatic, and that I need to stop looking for excuses. For context, my younger brother, 15, actually has ADHD, diagnosed and is on medication, which helps him a lot. So it's not like my parents don't believe it's a real thing. But when I hinted that I might have similar focus issues, they literally said, "We can't handle another kid with that. You're fine, you're just not applying yourself." That made me feel really guilty, like I'm just a burden or something. One of my teachers also noticed I was zoning out and missing assignments, and she gently suggested maybe I talk to the school counselor about possibly getting evaluated for attention issues. I kind of shrugged it off because I know my parents aren't on board, and they're the ones who would have to approve any testing. So now I don't know. Maybe I am just lazy. Maybe I'm a spoiled kid looking for a label to excuse my procrastination. But it genuinely feels like something is wrong with how my brain works. I see my friends and classmates able to just sit and do their work, and for me, it's like pulling teeth every single time. I'm so mentally tired, and the worse I do in school, the more I hate myself for it. If anyone has advice, I'd appreciate it. How do I convince my parents that I'm not just being lazy? Or if I am simply lazy, How do I fix it? I just want to do well and make my brain cooperate. Thanks for reading. First, I want to give you a big virtual hug because you sound like you're really going through it. Let me start by saying you are not just lazy. I can't diagnose you, not a doctor, just a Minecraft guy, but everything you described, difficulty focusing, easily distracted, needing deadline pressure to get anything done, mental exhaustion, those are very commonly associated with ADHD or similar attention issues. The contrast between your earlier years and now when school got harder is also a known pattern. Lots of people with mild ADHD compensate well when they're younger, then hit a wall in high school or college when the workload increases. Your feelings are valid. You feel something is off for a reason. Laziness generally isn't accompanied by distress or a desire to do better. Lazy people typically don't care. You clearly do care and are trying. Your brain just isn't cooperating. That's not a moral failing, and it's not because you're a bad or weak person. It really sucks that your parents aren't listening. It might be because they feel overwhelmed. As they hinted, dealing with one kid's ADHD maybe drained them, and they're scared to go through it again. But that's not fair to you. Ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. It usually makes it worse. If you do have ADHD or anxiety or something similar, getting support therapy, coping strategies, possibly medication, could hugely improve your quality of life. Since your parents aren't receptive right now, is there another adult who can advocate for you? Maybe that teacher or the school counselor. School counselors often have resources to do preliminary assessments, or can at least talk to parents from a professional standpoint. Sometimes parents take it more seriously when a teacher or counselor says, "Hey, I think your child might benefit from an evaluation," rather than hearing it from their teen. Unfair but true. If you feel comfortable, maybe go back to that counselor and explain the situation. They might call a meeting with your parents. Hearing it from the school might push your parents to agree to testing. Another angle, since your brother has ADHD, maybe you could ask him or your parents if you can try some of the strategies that help him, like studying together in a structured way or using some organizational tools he uses. If those strategies help you, it might be more evidence that you have a similar issue. I'm not saying sneak his meds or anything, definitely don't do that, but like non-medication techniques. And let me emphasize, you are not a burden. Your health and mental well-being are just as important as your brother's. Your parents might be in denial because they can't handle it, but tough cookies for them. Parenting means handling things. You deserve help. Worst case, even if you can't get an official diagnosis right now, there are plenty of resources online, forums, YouTube, etc., with tips for managing ADHD-like symptoms. Things like breaking tasks into smaller chunks, using timers, like work 20 mins, break 5 mins, studying in a distraction-free environment, or with a bit of background music/noise if that helps you focus. Some ADHD folks use that. Experiment with techniques and see what clicks. It won't solve everything, but it could improve things enough until you can get more support. Most importantly, please stop beating yourself up. You are trying. I can tell. Being mean to yourself, "I hate myself, I'm stupid," will only make it harder to find motivation. Give yourself credit for holding on and seeking answers. That shows strength, not laziness. I really hope your parents come around. Maybe show them some literature or even this video segment, "Hi parents," if you're watching. Sometimes hearing about it from a third party or realizing, hey, other people experience this can open their eyes. You're not alone in feeling like your brain isn't cooperating. Many of us have been there, and with the right help, it can get better. You're not broken or bad. You just need some tools and support to unlock your potential again. Hang in there and keep advocating for yourself. You deserve to be heard. Alright, let's move on to the next email. Second subscriber story. Hey, I'm a 20-year-old guy and I could use some advice or perspective on a breakup that's been really hard on me. Earlier this year, I broke up with my girlfriend, 19F, of about a year. Actually, to be precise, she broke up with me, and the main reason was her family, especially her dad, not approving of our relationship. A little background. We started dating in high school and were each other's first serious relationship. We were, or at least I thought we were, really in love. But her father is super strict and traditional. He basically didn't allow her to date, so we kept it a secret for most of our relationship. She hated sneaking around, but we didn't see another way, because whenever her dad even suspected she was seeing someone, he'd ground her and take away her phone. It was intense. We always hoped that once she graduated high school, which she did a few months ago, it would get easier, like maybe her dad would loosen up if she was an adult and heading to college. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. If anything, he became more controlling, laying down rules for her summer and monitoring her whereabouts. It put a lot of stress on her. Around the end of summer, she sat me down and, through tears, told me she thinks we have to break up. She said the pressure from hiding and the guilt from lying to her parents was eating her up, and she didn't see her dad ever accepting our relationship. She basically said, "I love you, but I can't do this anymore. Not right now." I was heartbroken, but I also saw how torn up she was. I didn't want to be another source of stress for her, so we ended things. It's been a couple months now. She's away at a college in another city. I'm at a local college here. We haven't really talked since the breakup, aside from a few check-in texts. I'm trying to move on, but I'm just stuck. I think about her every day. I keep wondering if I should wait and see if things change once she's more independent, like maybe her dad's influence will lessen as time goes on. She hinted that maybe in the future, when she doesn't rely on him, something could work out, but that's so uncertain. But in the meantime, I feel like I'm living in the past. I haven't dated anyone else, or even been interested. I compare every girl I meet to her. Part of me wants to reach out and see if she's okay, or if she misses me. But I also don't want to make things harder for her, or get my hopes up if she really needs to stay broken up. Have any of you been in a situation where external factors, like family, ended a relationship that was otherwise good? How did you cope? Do you think I should hold out hope, or try to let it go? I'm young, I know, plenty of time to find someone else, but she was really special to me. This whole thing just hurts a lot. Thanks for any advice. Sorry if this was long. Man, that's a rough situation. It's one thing to lose a relationship because of issues between you two, but losing it because of outside forces, especially family, just adds a whole other layer of pain and frustration. I'm really sorry you're going through this. First, let me validate that your feelings are completely normal. Of course you're thinking about her daily, a year-long first love that ends not from lack of love, but from circumstance, is going to linger in your heart and mind. And the fact that there's this maybe someday hanging in the air can make it even harder to move on, because a part of you will want to hang on to that hope. Here's my take. It's okay to have hope for the future, but I wouldn't let that hope stop you from living your life now. In other words, it's possible that down the line, when she's independent and her father's control isn't a factor, you two might reconnect. That does happen for some people. High school sweethearts reuniting later, etc. However, you can't bank on someday, because there's no guarantee. People change, circumstances change. By the time her life situation improves, you both might be different people, or both of you might find love elsewhere. It sounds like she genuinely loved you, but felt she had no choice. I imagine she is hurting too. Her dad put her in a terrible position of choosing between family and you, and at 19 financially and emotionally under his roof/rules. I understand why she felt she had to step back. It's sad because as an outside observer, I can say her dad is being unreasonable and she'll regret letting him control her life. But when you're that kid, it's not so easy to defy your parent, especially if there's a lot of fear/guilt involved. In terms of coping, give yourself permission to grieve. It's okay that you haven't been interested in anyone else for a couple months. That's not very long, honestly. Don't pressure yourself to just move on as if a switch can be flipped. Focus on yourself for now. Dive into college life, hobbies, friends, goals. The busier and more fulfilled you keep your day to day, the less time your mind will have to dwell on the past. That's not to say you'll forget her. You won't. Not quickly at least. But it'll soften over time. If you do decide to reach out just to check on her, keep it light and without expectations. Maybe a friendly, "Hey, I hope college is going well for you," might be okay. Gauge her response. If she seems eager to talk, great. But if she's distant, give her that space. She might be trying to heal too, or might be underwatched by dad even from afar, who knows. As for holding out hope, I'd keep a tiny candle of hope if that helps you, but also mentally prepare for the possibility that she might not circle back. The best mindset might be, if it's meant to be in the future, it will be. But meanwhile, I'm going to live my best life. That way you don't shut the door completely, but you're also not standing at the door not doing anything else. And hey, you're 20. That's so young. I know everyone hates hearing there's other fish in the sea, but it's kinda true. You will likely meet someone who blows you away just as much, in a different way. It's hard to imagine now, but trust that your capacity to love didn't end with this relationship. It might also help to talk to a friend or counselor about this, someone who can just listen as you process. Sometimes just voicing the feelings, like you did in this email, is part of healing. Ultimately, I'd say don't completely wait for her because you might stagnate, but don't feel guilty for still loving her either. Time will clarify things. If you two are meant to reconnect when her circumstances change, you'll figure it out then. For now, take care of yourself. Maybe gently try dipping your toes into social/dating life when you're ready, and keep hope that things will get better with or without her. They will. I'm rooting for you, whether that means a future with her or finding peace and love elsewhere. Good luck, man. Alright, on to our final email of the day. Hi, I'm a 23-year-old woman, and I've been with my boyfriend 25M for 3 years, living together for 6 months. I'm looking for advice on something that's been bothering me about our relationship dynamic. Basically, my boyfriend's behavior toward me has been really hot and cold. Sometimes he's super sweet, affectionate, and gives me all his attention. But other times he goes quiet and distant for days. When I ask if something's wrong, he always says he's just tired or stressed from work, but I can't help but feel like it's me, because often the cold periods happen after I've hung out with friends or done something without him. He'll make little passive-aggressive comments, like if I mention a funny story about a guy friend from work. He'll be like, you seem to have a lot of fun with him, don't you? He says it in a joking tone, but it still feels off. Or if I come home a bit late from a girls' night, he'll say usually people only stay out that late if they're trying to hide something. Again, said like a haha, just kidding. But not really kidding. When I directly asked him if he was upset with me hanging out with friends, he denied it and said, no, I'm fine, just tired. But then he'll be all moody and quiet, which makes me feel guilty, or like I have to cheer him up. Then a day or two later, he'll flip back to being my lovely, attentive boyfriend, like nothing happened. It's giving me emotional whiplash. I love him a lot, and when things are good, they're really good. But I'm starting to feel anxious even when I do normal things, like getting coffee with a friend or texting people, because I half expect he'll make a snarky comment or withdraw again. I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I also don't want to accuse him of anything, because technically he isn't forbidding me or outright saying he's jealous. It's all indirect. How do I bring this up in a constructive way? Or is this kind of behavior a red flag that I'm excusing too much? I sometimes wonder if I'm doing something wrong, or if he's just naturally moody. I'd appreciate any insights. This is a classic case of someone saying they're fine, but acting very much not fine. Your boyfriend's passive-aggressive remarks and silent treatment spells are signaling jealousy or insecurity in my book. He may not be outright forbidding you from seeing friends, but he's punishing you in little ways when you do, which is not okay. You are definitely not doing anything wrong by having friends and a life outside of him. Healthy relationships actually encourage that. The fact that you now feel anxious about normal social activities is a big red flag that his behavior is chipping away at your sense of freedom and comfort. Walking on eggshells is no way to live, especially with a partner who's supposed to be your support, not your monitor. I think you need to have a direct, calm conversation during a neutral good moment, not when he's actively in one of his moods. Maybe something like, hey, I've noticed sometimes when I hang out with friends or mention certain people, you get quiet or make comments that make me feel like you're upset or suspicious. I really value our relationship, and I also value my friends. I want you to feel secure with us, and I also want to feel like I can share things with you without worrying I'm upsetting you. Can we talk about what you're feeling in those moments? By framing it around feelings, both his and yours, and not like an accusation, you're being jealous and passive-aggressive, you might get him to open up. There's a chance he'll continue to deny, but you've at least put it on the table that you notice, and it's affecting you. Sometimes people like him need a bit of a wake-up, that their behavior isn't as subtle as they think. Now, if he refuses to engage or continues the pattern, you have to consider your boundaries. One scenario is he admits he's been feeling jealous or insecure, maybe about your male friends, or just in general, and then you two can work on reassurance and trust. Maybe he has some past trust issues. Who knows? If he's willing to work on it, great. But if he keeps stonewalling saying it's nothing while clearly punishing you, that's not sustainable. You might then say, well, it feels like something, and I need it to change because it's making me unhappy. Remember, you have every right to hang out with friends and have a life. A loving partner should want you to have those joys, not guilt trip you over them. The snide remarks and silent treatment are forms of manipulation. Even if he's not doing it super consciously, it's still what it is. Trust your gut. You're already sensing this is not okay. Sometimes we downplay our own feelings, like you call it, maybe he's just naturally moody. But pattern-wise, his moods correlate with you seeing others. That's not random, that's cause and effect. If he truly is just an introvert who needs space sometimes, fine. But then it wouldn't come with those pointed comments about your friends. The comments give away what's actually bugging him, so have the talk. See if he owns up, or at least acknowledges your perspective. Best case, he might not have realized how obvious his behavior was, and will check himself and communicate better. Worst case, he doubles down or dismisses your concerns, and then you have to decide if this dynamic is something you're willing to live with long term. You deserve a relationship where you don't dread telling your partner about your day or who you hung out with, so advocate for that. How he responds will tell you a lot. Good luck. I hope he listens and you guys can get to a healthier place. If not, there are people out there who wouldn't put you through this emotional roller coaster. Don't forget that. Alright folks, that wraps up all the stories for today. Alright, I've got those resources stored safely back at my base now, and I'm pretty happy with how things are looking here. But that's all the Reddit stories and Minecraft mining I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out and continuing to watch these videos. I really appreciate it. And hey, if you're still listening at this point, you are an absolute legend. Maybe consider hitting that subscribe button and, I don't know, leaving a comment with those 3 wacky digits on the back of your parents' credit card. Just kidding. For legal reasons, that is definitely a joke. On that note, take care, be kind, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.